Okay guys, welcome back. Sorry it's taking me so long. I have a good reason. Here's what happened. Okay, well first, let's roll the intro. Where were we? Quick little story time. Logged on to a unnamed website, downloaded an unnamed person's presets who I was super excited with, that I actually was trying to help them create some sounds, and we're in conversation with that. Clearly that's not gonna happen, and that's fine. But I wanted to download them and see what they sounded like, so type away, go to the website, download them, load them on my Helix, play them. They sound like garbage, in my opinion. And in the process of importing them, I wasn't paying attention to which, I don't even know what you call that, bank or whatever I was loading them to, and I overrode all of my presets. So I basically wiped my Helix, all the stuff that I had saved on it, and I had been trying to come out with this video for over a month now, almost 2 months I think, and I decided to take the moment to just start fresh. I've been doing the same thing a while and I think it sounded good, but I just kind of wanted to do something different. So this is my latest setup, my latest signal chain. So many of you have been asking for this. I so apologize for the delay, but I really wanted to put it through its paces before I kind of put something out there again. Sometimes I get excited about a new sound and then a couple weeks later I'm like, yeah, I kind of like the old thing better. So far I've been really liking this. This is something that I kind of got inspired from some old rig pictures of mine, and if I can find it I'll put it in this video. But I used to run a matchless with a 412 cabinet, a Marshall 412, and then a Vox style amp. I'm sorry, a Marshall style amp and a 212 cabinet. A 18 watt Marshall, if you're familiar with that. And it sounded really awesome. It was obviously a huge pain to carry around everywhere. So I stopped doing that, and that was several years ago. The point being, I had been missing that 412 kind of thump with my 212s, and yes, you could argue EQ-wise in the mix, there's not a lot of room for lows from the guitar. However, I would argue, now granted, we have a competent sound guy, so I can kind of get away with this, but I would argue that I prefer to take, excuse me, they're running some very fragrancy stuff in the office right now. I would argue that it's easier to take out low-end stuff than to add it. It feels more natural to remove already existing low-end stuff than to add it. And I felt like sometimes when I'm doing solos and stuff, it just didn't have like, it didn't have the you-know-what behind it. I'll leave it there because somebody got upset I said something else in the video. Sorry, dude. But yeah, so it just needed some more power behind it, and I just felt like it was time to implement a 412 again. So if it's not your thing, you can swap that cab out, but I just want to jump straight into this. I know I don't have a lot of time. I want to get this thing done. I want to give you guys what you've been asking for. So I'm going to jump over to the computer here and we'll take a peek at the screenshot, and I'm just going to kind of play. Video is going to be a little bit trashy in terms of the editing, but I really want to get this out, and I'm shooting, like, I'm looking at my board right now. I've got 6 videos to shoot in the next 2 weeks for work, so I want to get this out, so let's get to it. Okay, so if you're looking at this screenshot, the first thing I have here is the wah. I incorporated this because I like to use this for some of the more gospel-y stuff we do, and I just like having it for solos occasionally. You got to be really careful with it, because you don't want to overuse it for sure. It's a slightly dated sound to me, but it can still be used sparingly for fun. This is the Weeper. Again, I'm not going to include like all of the settings for all these, because I'm going to link this patch below. You can download it, use it for your liking, but I will show you just kind of what it sounds like. Let me turn some reverb off and stuff. That's a walk, you get the idea. Next in line, I have a gain block. So this is an always on thing. Just keeps things sounding nice and full. It's just gain. Okay. Next in line is the Minotaur. Next stage of gain. Nothing crazy here. I'll play you just what that sounds like. Turn that reverb down, sorry. I've got it switching over automatically. So that's what this sounds like. Cool. Pretty cool sound there. A pretty transparent overdrive, you know, I'm not trying to make it super gainy. That's where we get into this stuff. So next up is the Tima. I'll just stack that, and you know, for reference, I always stack my drives. I will sometimes remove the Minotaur and use the Tima and just the gain, depending on what kind of sound I'm going for, but I'll get to that in a second. So here's the Tima, Minotaur gain. Whatever. Just screwing around here. So that's like my pretty gainy thing. I'll use that for like intros of lead lines. Lead lines for intros, that kind of stuff. You get the idea. The next thing up is the Scream 808. Obviously it's a tube screamer. Slightly more gain. This is very specific for like just huge sustained solos. Yeah, I mean, I'll play some chords with it, but I never play chords with it. Whatever, probably not going to keep all that. So you get the idea with that. Super high gain, very specific thing. I probably use that 10% of the time. Very, very subtle. Next up is my volume. You get the idea. It's a volume pedal. I like it after my drives. You need it for swells. Simple enough. Okay, the next thing up, and these are not all mapped. I've got a 70s chorus here. I'll just turn that on so you can hear it. I'm not going to play the whole song. You get the idea there. The 70s chorus is a specific sound for a specific purpose. These are not always on, but I like having them because sometimes I'll use these for certain textures, things I'm trying to do. Probably not applicable for most of the songs that you guys are playing at church. I use that for tracking some ideas, some demos, whatever. Next thing up is the bubble vibrato, which I do use quite often in church world. Next thing I have here is an optical trim. Again, this is not an always on pedal. This is specific purpose pedal. I don't know. I need to come up with a better term for that. You get the idea there, just a nice trim. I like that sometimes for some swells. Sometimes the song calls for it. If it's like an older tune, there's a lot of trim in the older days, 2005, 2003, 2008 or 9. Sometimes we'll do those songs. Next thing up is the quarter note delay. This is a solo delay, or like if I'm playing a song that just needs a little bit more width to it. Man, I cannot talk today. A little more wideness to it. Then I'll put this on. I'll let you hear what it sounds like. Low mix, 30% mix, high feedback. Nothing fancy there, and I'll kind of give you an example in a second of how I might use that. The next thing up in the signal path is the dotted eighth delay. This is that transistor tape. I use transistor tape for all my delays. It sounds all right. I'm kind of kicking around the idea of putting my time factor back on here. It's just my favorite delay pedal of all time. I'm sorry, Alex, if you watch this. But these work great for the most part. This is what it sounds like. Mix is at 44%, feedback's at 48. You guys know what a dotted eighth is. You get the idea. You've all heard of dotted eighth, right? The last delay pedal I have is a eighth note transistor tape. I'll combine this with the dotted eighth for the Phil Wickham songs. That's an effect used often. I guess if you're not familiar, most notable would be the verse 2 of This Is Amazing Grace. Which, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I used the bubble vibrato for that, so. Whatever, that's not the right tempo, but you get the idea. So that's not an always on pedal, it's used pretty sparingly. I included a couple of reverbs. Obviously you guys, well not obviously, maybe you guys don't know, I use a BigSky. Don't use the onboard reverbs on the Helix except for one consistently, and that is the particle verb, and I use this for swells. It's super awesome, and you can check out the settings by downloading the patch, but I'll just give you a quick example of how I might use this. So basically I use it for big pads. Almost always I'm using my fingers to manipulate it. You'll have to play with that. Don't strum with it. It sounds awful. This other gain block I have here, this is like a not always on thing. So don't worry about that. That's for one of my guitars in particular, my Strat. I don't play it a ton live. It's mostly used for tracking, but it needs a little bit more gain out of it for my liking. The next thing is the effects loop, which most of you guys will have to disable unless you use a BigSky and you actually like it before the amps. I personally like my reverbs before the amps. Sorry, I said before. If you like reverbs after the amps, just move it. If you're using a BigSky. If you like it before the amps, leave it where it is. The next thing I have, this is included for you guys who don't have a BigSky, is the double tank. And let me turn my BigSky off really quick, let you hear what this sounds like. Cool. It's a great sounding reverb. I don't actually have the settings changed all that much, except for maybe the modulation, the mix for sure, and possibly the decay. It's been a minute since I've used this, but you can tweak it per your likings. I really do feel like reverb is most of its preference. Some of it is EQ. Don't put a bunch of like low end on your reverbs unless you're playing by yourself. Just quick note. Okay, so next we have 2 amps, both the AC30 Fawns, and I love those. The reason I have two of them is because, and as compared to doing 1 amp and then 2 cabs, is a lot of time, not a lot, sometimes I'll switch one of the amps out, like if we're doing a kind of different song. I like the flexibility. But the reason I'm not including a different amp in this patch is because 90% of the time I'm using 2 AC30s and I tweak the settings slightly per my liking. I'm going to leave them the same for you guys because a lot of these are EQ'd from my guitars. So, like for example, this Duesenberg sounds totally different than, let's just say, what do I have here? My PRS David Grissom model. And especially different for something like my Falcon. So you're going to have to EQ this slightly per the needs that you have for your instrument. No guitar is EQ'd the same way. That's my opinion, but take it to the bank. So tweak those per the things that you like. These are great starting points. I will say this, for the most part, I don't have to tweak the amps. Sometimes I'll throw an EQ block in and cut out, like on the Falcon, it's got a lot of low end. So I'll cut some of that out. It's like too much low end to where it doesn't sound clear. And then maybe I'll boost some stuff. But again, I don't want to give you guys specific numbers because then you'll start jacking up your EQ. Okay, so the final thing, oh my gosh, I'm at 18 minutes already. The final thing is the IRs. I am using IRs. I've been using IRs for a while, and I haven't really talked to anyone about it because I felt like, who cares? But after Alex put that video out and got lit up, I thought it was hilarious because I'm using IRs as well, and I just hadn't said anything, although I guess Alex did set himself up for that in previous conversations. I've never been against IRs. I've had them since the beginning. I just didn't include them in any of my previous patches. Okay, done with that. So the first one is the OH4, which I'll put a screenshot of this because you won't be able to see this unless you have these. So this is the OH212 VC30 Blue 93 OH107. I actually think that's, now that I'm thinking about it, that's one of the ones Alex uses. It's a great sounding setup. The second one I use is a OH412. That stands for Own Hammer, if you're not familiar with that. 412 Bogner ST-V30. So I'm a big fan of Bogner 412 cabinets. I think they sound awesome. So I use Bogner cabinets. I don't know what pack you can get that in. You'll probably have to Google it. That's a pretty old IR. Maybe there's better ones now. I've had it a long time. So yeah, what have I missed? Oh yes. Whoops, sorry. The other things that you'll see when you download the patch is that I actually have 2 switches, 2 buttons set up for running Ableton, because for our Wednesday night services, we don't have a keys guy, so I'm firing all the tracks. So I have a play and a stop button, and you can delete those and add effects if you want effects, or if you also run Ableton. It's super easy. I've made another video where I explain how I'm doing that. This is a quick kind of like start and stop. We don't have a lot of smooth transitions for the Wednesday night service, so it's not really imperative to have a bank up, bank down. Like, we're not skipping songs. It's bam, bam, bam. So I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this video is about, but that's why they're there. Feel free to delete them if you don't use Ableton. I think that's it, guys. So I'm sorry again this took so long. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. I'm gonna try, I don't know. I keep telling you guys I'm gonna like do uploads on the regular, but the truth is life is like insane right now. And with the holidays coming up, who knows? I might get one more video out. But I'd love for you guys to stay in touch. I'm trying to be as engaged as I can. I haven't given up on this. I'm just kind of in a crazy season of life. But I appreciate y'all holding out. We got new subscribers all the time. Every day I'm getting new subscribers, which is amazing because I haven't put any content out in a while. So thank you for the support. If you have questions about this, feel free to hit me up in Slack, or now I can comment super easy on the YouTube videos, so feel free to do that. I try to like respond to all of those. If you haven't, hit the notification bell thing, because clearly you don't know when I'm gonna upload next. I so appreciate the support, guys. We will see you soon. Hope you enjoy the patch. I want to hear some demos. Peace.